Good day. Welcome to Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. Produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built. By Lipolis Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. And by White Plains Hospital, along with Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk, and by Tompkins Mahopac Bank. Welcome to the Sports Report. Today we are honored to have with us a member of the Westchester Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2006, the esteemed Joe Mazzella. Joe Mazzella, a two-sport legend over at Mount Vernon, longtime baseball coach involved with the basketball community, longtime basketball official too. Joe Mazzella, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you with us here on Westchester Talk Radio's The Sports Report. How are you, Joe?
I'm fine, John. Thank you for having me this morning.
All right. Great to have you here. Joe, where were you born and where did you go to school?
I was born in the Bronx and I attended Mount St. Michael.
So you're a Mount St. Michael product, Marist Brothers, right, in Mount St. Michael?
That is correct.
And I'm a Marist guy from St. Agnes in Manhattan, and we had a lot of cross-pollination of brothers between both schools through the years. Who knows? Maybe we had some of the same brothers going back and forth between Agnes and the Mount along the way. So at Mount St. Michael, what sports were you involved in?
I was involved in baseball and basketball primarily.
Mm-hmm. What positions did you play in both sports?
And I was a two-guard in basketball in today's standards, and in baseball, I was a pitcher.
How tall are you? Right about 6 feet?
About 6'2".
You are 6'2". Back in those days, they steered 6'2" guys to play center or power forward sometimes, right?
Well, I had pretty good ups. They called me Jumpin' Joe.
Mm-hmm. But you were a great shooter, too, so you got to play the off guard, right?
Right.
Right. So you moved along out of Mount St. Michael. Where did you go to college from there?
I went to Iona.
Mm-hmm.
I had several offers, but I selected Iona for basketball and baseball.
Mm-hmm. So you played both at Iona?
Yeah, for 4 years.
And you pitched at Iona?
I pitched at Iona, and then after my senior year, I signed as a free agent with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Mm-hmm. Did you play basketball at Iona too?
I played basketball at Iona. I'm in the Hall of Fame as a basketball and baseball player.
At Iona College, Joe Mazzella, Hall of Famer, basketball and baseball for the Gales. How tough was it to play two sports at once?
Very time-consuming. It was a great commitment on both parts. Now I look back, I'd say to myself, it's amazing how I was able to do it and keep up my grades and stuff like that. But it was a great experience.
What did you major in at Iona?
I majored on history economics. I have my master's in secondary education, and I have my PD in administration from Fordham.
So you have a pretty varied educational background. You went to Fordham after Iona. You know they're arch rivals, both schools, right?
Yeah.
Well, they were for a long time. I went to Fordham. I'm a Fordham product, and we know that rivalry. And our good friend Gary Stanley, who was the Iona basketball play-by-play guy for many years, is a Fordham guy, actually, a couple of years before me, my former WCBS 880 in New York City sports anchoring a colleague, Gary Stanley, legendary broadcaster here at WFAS in White Plains, and then with Iona and with CBS also, too. Joe, after you signed with the Cardinals, you worked your way through their minor league baseball system. Where did they send you first?
Well, first we were in spring training, and we're in St. Petersburg, Florida. I had a great opportunity to experience the professional baseball with the Cardinals, and it was at a time where the Cardinals had some great players: Bob Gibson, Joe Torre, Kenny Boyer, Ted Simmons, Dal Maxwell. They had really, Red Shandies was the coach. And it was funny. I had some great recollection. I used to get up at 6 a.m. and walk 20 blocks to have breakfast with the one and only Joe Medwick.
Uh-huh.
the Hall of Famer, and I couldn't believe I read some of his accomplishment. One year, he had something like 35 to 40 home runs plus 175 RBIs. But just to sit with him in the morning, and we used to talk about it. Then he came by. I saw him later in the year when I was with Cedar Rapids Cardinals in the Midwest League. He came to one of my games out in the Midwest against the was the Decatur Pirates, I think it was, Decatur, Illinois. And
Joe Ducky Medwick, right? They called him Ducky back then?
That is correct.
Yeah. Baseball Hall of Famer, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And then another story was great. I got an opportunity. I pitched in for AA in spring training against Cincinnati. And Cincinnati was the best hitting team in AA ball. And they had Ken Griffey Sr., Joe Youngblood, who played for the Mets, and Dan Dreesen. I lost to them 3-1. So I did that on a Tuesday. On a Wednesday, Bob Kennedy, the director of player development, came up to me and said, Joe, we'd like you to, you had such a good game. We'd like you to throw batting practice on Friday. You're traveling with the team to go up to Lakeland, Florida to play Detroit Tigers. Who was managing the Tigers but Billy Martin?
Wow.
So we get in, we go, get on the bus, and it was a great thrill for me. And I was the only rookie, actually, with the Cardinals traveling with them to throw batting practice. So I sat down by myself, on the fourth row. I still remember on the bus, one of the Greyhound bus. And who walks in and goes, move over, kid. It was Lou Brock.
Uh-huh.
And we sat for 2 hours and we just talked, and it was great speaking with him. And so we get up to Lakeland, Florida, and I knew Billy Martin was there. So in those days, and I don't know if they do it now because it's a different mindset, but we took the field at 11 o'clock when we got there right away. We took the field at 12 o'clock because it was a 1:30 game, 1 o'clock. The Tigers came out, and they had Al Kaline, Jim Freehan. They had some great players. So Billy's playing Peppa. I went up to him. I introduced myself to him. And how you doing, kid? I said, Billy, I'm a New York fan, born and raised in the Bronx. I said, when are you coming to New York? He said, we got something in the works. This is in 72.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I might be there in a couple of years, 2-3 years. I got to finish out my contract. So lo and behold, around 1976, 77, I go to this place, D.L. Sutton's, is a bar restaurant on the Upper East Side. And I happen to know the owner. I went over and said hello to him. And he goes, I want to bring you over to say hello to a good friend of ours, Billy Martin. So I walked over to him and I said, he goes, how you doing, kid? I said, those were the same words you used. I pitched in the Cardinal chain. I don't know if you remember, I came up to you asking you, when are you coming to New York? Yeah, I remember that, kid. How you doing? Good to see you. And he lit up and stuff, and we chatted for about 5 minutes. But he was a great individual and a great Yankee.
When you met Lou Brock, did you challenge him to a foot race?
No, we just talked a lot. But he said to me, anytime if we come into town, come to see me, I'll bring you in the locker room. Lo and behold, they're playing the Mets in a doubleheader at Shea Stadium. So I got there early at the ballpark. I walked in. I yelled at him. He gives me a finger wave. I go to. He takes me and brings me right into the locker room, and I sat on the bench for a little while.
Wow.
So It was a great experience, and I kind of missed him when he passed away because he was truly a great person.
You mentioned three Hall of Famers who've passed away within the last year: Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, and Al Kaline.
Yeah, it's a sad. I guess we all we all have our numbers. When God calls us, it's time for us to go to the next world.
Move on to the next ball game, right?
That's it.
By the way, you mentioned the term pepper. Describe what that is for a non-sports
It's
person.
just I don't see many teams do it anymore. I guess they hit inside and they have batting cages and all that. The guys used to come out, 3 or 4 of them, just throw the ball and just play. And he would slap the balls to each of the players. Just
with a special fungo bat, they called it, right? A specially weighted bat.
Yeah, you can use it now, but you basically use whatever's available to you at the time. But it was a good way to get, see the ball, make contact, and at the same time with your glove, see the ball into the glove and so on, throw it, and just get into a player's moti.
Mm-hmm. Did that teach you to be ready at all times, playing fungo?
That's correct. That's
pepper?
correct.
Yeah. I think that was a lot of it, about reactions and making sure you're ready at all times, because if you're playing pepper and you're not paying attention, you could get hurt.
Yeah, you can get hit in the head or something.
Right.
You don't want that to happen.
Not at all. Here we are with Joe Mazzella on the Sports Report here on Westchester Talk Radio. I'm John Marino. Joe, as you made your way through your minor league baseball career, what year did it come to an end for you, where you decided to move on to something
1973, they eliminated a franchise, and I received a letter, and they said, Joe, we eliminated a franchise, and we're going to go in a different direction. So I came back, and I said, thank you very much, and I came back, and I played with the New Rochelle Robins from 73 to about 1988, and it was a great experience. And we'll probably will have one of the greatest Sandlot teams with a minor league player at each position, because we all played against each other. So it was a great experience, and playing for Dick Caswell was a lot of fun, and my teammates were terrific. And baseball was at its apex in the 70s and 80s, where you got a chance to play as often as you can. We used to play 80 to 100 games, and that's what you need to really play. And I used to, express that to my players. You need to play. You need to play a minimum of 60 games if you want to become a really good baseball and be a scholarship player to go to school.
I have a cousin who attended St. Raymond's in the Bronx in the 80s and
great baseball
all around the Sandlot circuit around the city and the tri-state area. He actually passed up a baseball scholarship to St. John's. He had his own reasons for doing that, and obviously passed up a potential chance to go pro, like you had the opportunity to.
Right.
When did you decide to get into education and passing along what you know about baseball and basketball to kids and to others, to the community?
Well, basically, when I was in school, I had received my education at Iona. They had a great educational department, and so I got my educational degree. And then 3 years later, I went and received my master's degree at Iona. And at that time, you needed a master's if you really wanted to succeed in education. And it was really, I just wanted to be with kids, especially high school kids. And whatever I had, I wanted to relate it to my kids.
Mm-hmm. So you wound up at Mount Vernon High School, school known for its legendary basketball program, the best in the history of New York State, no question about that. Bridgehampton, where I have a lot of close ties to, also happens to be number 2 all time, and they're in different categories, divisions. Mount Vernon, a big school, Bridgehampton, a small school. Baseball at Mount Vernon, always an important sport as well, too. You had some pretty well-known players who passed through the system with you? For example, Roy Smith, who went on to pitch in the big leagues.
Roy was a special individual, and I was lucky having the opportunity to coach him. You know, he signed as the number 2 pick for the Phillies and then had a great career, ending up with the Minnesota Twins. He has a World Series ring with Minnesota. But not only was he a terrific baseball player, but he was a terrific person and well-educated. He had a scholarship to Stanford in California. And I think a month before he was ready to attend at Stanford, he decided to sign with the Philadelphia Phillies. He was the number 2 pick.
Mm-hmm.
But he right now he's the advanced scout for the Mets. He's held many positions as assistant GM with the Dodgers.
And the Pirates too, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a wonderful human being, and I was just lucky to have the opportunity to coach him. I had 4 other players, signed professional contracts. And, well, put it this way, I was lucky to be at Mount Vernon. They were great players, and we won quite a few games, over 450 games, whatever. And, we played great baseball at Mount Vernon.
Roy Smith also was a big basketball star at the Mets.
Oh, yeah, he was a very good player. Mount Vernon's first
state championship team, right?
State champion, the first state champion team with the McRae brothers. But also, prior to that, in the 70s, early 70s, you had Mount Vernon was loaded with talent with the Williams brothers. They had
Ray and Gus.
Ray and Gus, absolutely. But the Lowe's Moore came in. It was just a great school. And don't forget, I guess the same time, he was a little bit older than I was. But when I was in spring training, Kenny Singleton played with the Mets. So I went to see him play. They were playing the Orioles. The Mets shared Al Lang Field with the Cardinals. So I went down to the game to see him. And then I saw him after the game, and he said to me, Joe, something's brewing. I might get traded. I says, well, Kenny, I wish you the best. And then he gets traded, from the Mets to the Orioles.
The Expos and the Rusty Staub deal, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yep. You mentioned the McRae brothers, Scooter and Rodney McRae from Mount Vernon. Both went on to have NBA careers as well. Kenny Singleton, you talk about Al Lang Field in St. Petersburg, which the Mets and the Cardinals shared for many years until the Mets moved over to Port St. Lucie, I guess, back in the mid to late 80s, where they are now. What makes Mount Vernon so special athletically? Every school has athletes. Not every school is able to make it all come together. And some schools specialize in one sport. A school like Mount Vernon, basketball, yes. Baseball, yes, too. And other sports, too, Mount Vernon excels at. What's the key at Mount Vernon?
I think it's the dedication and commitment from the coaches and the community surrounding themselves. For baseball, they need to get back to establishing a Little League program. Basketball, they have Bobby Semino, who really takes care of the kids in basketball, and they're constantly playing, and the discipline, and the players that went on to succeed in basketball and in life come back, and they're used as role models for the kids that they have there. So,
for example, like a Denzel Washington, who played basketball and football at Mount Vernon, and he comes back, gives to the community, and I think he gives in ways that we don't even talk about, or he does not want to have talked about, and yet he's behind the scenes with a lot of the good that goes on in the city of Mount Vernon.
Yeah, with the boys club.
Right.
He's a wonderful donor. He donates his time and his philanthropy to give them the money and make make them succeed, and at some point there's life, besides, what they have there, and tries to get them to really maximize their talents along with giving them the opportunity to succeed.
I guess Mount Vernon, we could say, has one of the best athletic programs of all time around this country, and Mount Vernon produced maybe the greatest actor of all time, too.
Well, like I said, I was pretty lucky to be able to teach there and coach there and be involved with the players that I did have. And obviously, it's always noted as the number one basketball probably in the state or one of the tops in the country. It just doesn't happen all of a sudden. They really work at it. They have teams always getting together. Baseball needs to pick it up and get the Little League going along with the travel teams, and it'll get back to where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Joe Mazzella, legendary Mount Vernon baseball coach, involved with the basketball community. Iona College Hall of Famer in baseball and basketball, played in the minor league system of the St. Louis Cardinals back in the 60s and 70s, and a 2006 inductee into the Westchester Sports Hall of Fame. I'm John Marino. This is the Sports Report. We are Westchester Talk Radio. Joe Mazzella, you are also a renowned basketball official, too. How did you get into officiating? And I was told a long time ago, hey, kid, don't become an official. It can only get you into trouble.
Now, one of the ways to stay active with the game was to be an official, because you only can play for so long. And I had the opportunity to get into officiating, and officiating, you got to really love the game, but also, like they say, you got to get your plays correct and manage the game, and you get to learn a different facet of your life. Manage the game, how to talk to players, how to handle coaches. And it takes a while. You don't become a very good official until your 10th or 12th year in college basketball. And then you bring it down into the high school, and they set the standards of officiating. And then I had the opportunity to work in Westchester, worked a lot of games at the county center, worked a lot of fun games where competition, let players play through stuff. You get to understand that, the coaches, they expect certain professionalism, and you get some people that just want to annoy you, and you got to take care of business and then go from there. But on a collegiate level, I had the opportunity to work in 7A conferences at one time, traveled quite a bit, worked the NITs, and, brought me to Kansas, Wichita State, and Texas A&M. And I had some bracket busters at Murray State, up in Wright State, I was in Tennessee, I was in Florida, so I had an opportunity to see the other half of the world and what it's all about. And I got some wonderful people. My supervisors, John Guthrie and Fred Barakat, were really great to me, and teaching me the game and teaching me the way the NBA, Guthrie and Barakat embellished the NBA rules and brought it down to the collegiate level, and that's what they're using now, because they have the greatest referees in the world, or in the NBA. Matter of fact, there were 20 guys that I worked their first games with, still in the NBA, and I get a chuckle out of that. Because I told quite a few of them that keep doing what you're doing and stay dedicated, because you're going to make it to the NBA one day. So a couple of times I went to the Garden and see them work, and they saw me. They came running up to me. How did you get those seats? I says, I came to watch you guys.
Connections, as
they were great.
Joe, high school
They were
basketball
terrific.
official, collegiate basketball official. One time in high school, I got teed up by an official when final minute of the game, a call that could have gone either way was against us, an offensive foul, a charge, and I knew then with about 50 seconds left with that, we had no chance to win. So maybe I got a little out of hand, and the official went, he teed me up. And the game ended, and I said, what did you do that for? And he said, the game was over at that point, and you were the comic relief. So I couldn't argue with that.
Well, sometimes you get carried away, but if you're good the entire game and you say something, the best part is you work games with 20,000 people in the stands and stuff. You don't hear much. And the only time you tell them, I need you to stay in your box, because you stay in a coaching box, you get a reprieve. You come out on the floor and try and embarrass us, then we have to take care of business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what probably happened.
How about this new wave of, and I've seen this at G League Knicks games over at the County Center in White Plains, having worked some public address for the Westchester Knicks from time to time. I've seen the 4-referee experiment. And the first time I saw that about 3 years ago, I looked at it and I said, great idea, because the referees don't have to move that much, 2 on the side at midcourt, 1 under one hoop, 1 under the other hoop, and they just move up and down with the play instead of having to run around and cover all parts of the court. Do you like the 4 officials idea?
No, not particularly. I think the 3-person concept is the best, because they're moving at the time. And when you're moving, you staying sharp. And if you understand, the principles of the sport, especially on the officiating end, you want to get your plays right, but you got to be in a position to make the call, and I think you're not moving as much, but you need to be active as much as you can.
Mm-hmm. Does that give you a better view when you're moving around?
Absolutely. You're moving and you get a good look at the play, because the coaches are going to say, did you get a good look at that? And, they probably know the answer already, so you can't lie to them. Just tell them, I did get a look, and this is my perception, what happened. And then you go from there. But it's great. The 3-person system is getting better and better because of the replay rule, especially, and with 2 minutes to go in the game, you can go to the monitor for, goaltending, basket interference, or you can go to the monitor at any time, for a flagrant intentional foul, just to put time back on the clock. It's such helpful. I don't know if it'll ever come down to high school, but I'd love to see it when it gets to playoff time, when it really means something. You get people to work the games and stuff. And it's a game where, just like you play as much as you can, you have to referee. You can't take time off. The more you plays, the better it is. And especially if you work with really good officials that really take time to, really examine the game and teach the game. And once you work during the summers, you go to camps, because camps really help out and helps you with your philosophy. You got a lot of depends on where you go. You get people talking to you about the game, what you need to do, and so on and so forth. And you get your play right. If you get your play right, you're not going to hear too much garbage from the coaches. Then if they act stupid, then you got to invoke your skills and take care of business.
Over at the county center, for Westchester Knicks games, when it comes to a replay, it's the public address announcer who has the replay screen next to him. So when the officials come over, the games I've worked, I've had to be the guy to pick the screen up, put it up on the table in front of me, and, kind of work with the officials there as to what went on, and then you have to make the call, obviously, publicly to everybody in the arena at the county center after the officials tell you what that call happens to be. So it is an interesting experience, and to be involved with that, you see how the game has evolved through the years. You know, you're a legendary coach, too, locally. I heard a story about a game a few years back over in Portchester when you were coaching a bunch of Mount Vernon basketball greats. Came down to the final seconds. Joe Mazzella, during a timeout, put together a play that turned out to be the game winner. You designed a game-winning play. Tell us about that.
And I played in the Don Bosco tournament from the 70s right up to the 80s, 82. And once you hit the
after a certain point, you coach instead of play,
You start being a player coach. You give yourself 2 minutes and let the other kids play. And I was fortunate that, when you have good players, you make the coaches look good. So it was in the Don Bosco tournament, and I had great players. So I just basically designed one play. I had Lowe's Moore, Gus Williams, Curtis Moore, Ricky Burton. I had the Mount Vernon contingent.
Ricky Burton, yeah. Uh-huh.
So I just said, okay, we get the ball in bounds. I said, Gus, give the ball to the point guard, go down and screen, and screen Lowe's man in the corner. Lowe's, come off. If he's free, get him the ball. If not, button hook back. Gus got the ball, then do what you need to do to make it work. So, So Lowe's came back and got the ball, hit the three. We won the game. I looked like a hero.
And you had all those Westchester Sports Hall of Famers to work with, too, with Gus Williams, with Lowe's Moore, who, like you, I had the honor and pleasure of being the master of ceremonies, inducting there a few years back. When you have such great players like that as a coach, how do you work to make the players know that it can't be you on every play, or you can't put the ball in the hoop on every play, but there's a role you have to play to make sure that ball goes in the hoop like it did on that play?
Well, basically, they have to understand the game. And if they're team players and they know they understand the game, it makes it easy for the coach. Just go down, screen, kick out, do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Things simple. If you get too involved in doing the X's and O's, just go down there, set the screen, pop up, you keep going. If you don't button hook back for the ball, then do what you got to do and get open and move without the ball. So, like I said, it was just we were just lucky.
Like my father once told me, hey, you're not the best option on every play, even though you think you are, right? And that's what a coach has to tell his players sometimes.
He's a man of wisdom.
No doubt about that. He's been right about everything through the years, and at the age of 93, no question that he's still.
Hey, God
Joe,
bless
what do you
him.
do nowadays?
Well, right now I work part-time as a mortgage broker and help people get loans, for purchasing a house or refinancing. That keeps me going. I've been doing it since the 90s. And I'm also on the basketball end. I help the people in the county, observe the officials so they become better officials. In addition to, I work with the MEAC conference, and I go down to Delaware State. Usually I want to observe on the men's side, just to observe and give the reports to a fellow supervisor, Larry Rose, who I worked with 25 years, in the southern region, the southern conferences. And he brought me on in 2015. So I've been doing about 7 years working for him. Occasionally they'll send me down to DC to get a look at guys, make sure they're doing their work. I'll take the train down Usually, I meet up with some of the guys that work in the games. I probably worked with them for so many years. And I just tell them, just do your job, hustle, get your plays right, manage the game. And I'll give them some hints that Larry would like to see perform, make sure, they hustle at all times and do the right thing. So it's a fun experience.
Joe, besides coaching, you coached baseball, you coached basketball, you officiated for so many years and are still involved with basketball officiating nowadays too. What's been the key for Joe Mazzella to get those you've come in contact, in touch with, those who've played for you, those who've been under your wing? What has been the key to get them to buy into Joe Mazzella's program?
Well, you got to get them to believe. You teach them to have a positive attitude on life. You work hard at their game. They put the time in. Whatever time you put in, you will be successful as long as you teach them the fundamentals. And the fundamentals of life, the fundamentals of basketball, fundamentals of baseball. Be a good person, treat everybody with respect, and work at your game, and everything will just work out for you.
And no doubt it works out because you, Joe Mazzella, are a Westchester Sports Hall of Famer. It's been quite a pleasure to talk with you here today on the Sports Report on Westchester Talk Radio. Joe, all the best. And I know we'll run into each other around the county at an athletic event or something with the athletic community that might be going on, like maybe the next Hall of Fame event, which is scheduled for November 17th right now, correct?
That is correct. I'll probably see you in person. I look forward to it.
And you are on the Hall of Fame selection committee, too?
That is correct.
Joe Mazzella, involved all ends sports-wise here around Westchester, has been for decades. And Joe, one of our special sports icons around the county. Here on Westchester Talk Radio, the Sports Report, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that's service-built by Lipolis Electric. Lipolis? Don't get left in the dark. Get Lipolis. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. By White Plains Hospital. Also by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk. And by Tompkins Mahopac Bank. I'm John Marino. Catch all of our Westchester, Rockland, Fairfield, Dutchess, Orange, and Putnam County talk radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube, and download the app. Yes, we have one now. Take it with you everywhere and anywhere you go. It's called Westchester Talk.